I'm Julie Barkey with this Senate update. We are coming into the home stretch of this legislative session with committee chairs finalizing their omnibus finance packages with the intent of getting them off of the Senate floor and into conference committee by early May. Senator Charles Wiger's bill would fund early childhood through high school education, and it appropriates $16.88 billion in the 2016-2017 biennium. A few of the key provisions include a 1% increase to the per-pupil funding formula each year for the next 2 years, $70 million for pre-kindergarten, and $43 million for facility upgrades. We caught up with Senator Wiger to discuss his legislation. What would you consider, out of all of these provisions, the crown jewel, so to speak?
Well, it's always important to have additional money in the formula to give districts the ability to continue on to factor inflation. We still need to catch up, actually. So first and foremost is providing additional funds in formula. But I want to also strongly emphasize the infusion of money that we've put in for early learning opportunities, and particularly for school readiness. And we have a program which would make programs available for 4-year-olds in high-quality early learning programs through our schools. Schools could go elsewhere to contract that, but we have $70 million to roll that out, and we're really excited about that.
Senator, you mentioned the formula. This bill does take a very targeted approach with a majority of its funds. Some school officials, a lot of superintendents, have been asking for more money on the formula, say 3 or 4%. Why go the direction that you went?
Well, we are providing the 1-in-1 on the formula, and that's much better than what the House is providing. It's our hope that we will be able to provide more. The target of the $361.5 million was less than what we had hoped for. We're going to continue working for that. The governor has been at $700 million and actually is urging to increase on the formula. So it's still early in the process. As we get ready for conference committee, I expect that number that would be available for formula to increase. That's our hope. It's our intent. And in terms of the 1-in-1, we could have gone a little bit higher, but we also wanted to reflect high priorities. And Ready for K, the early learningness provision is a key part of it. Another one I want to make sure that is underscored is for school building repairs and facilities. There's so many districts that need additional money. We read about a lot of the big projects that are going on, but what about the schools where buildings, which often will average 40 to 50 years old and sometimes nearly 90, where they need repairs, and the general fund has to help subsidize that. Moreover, there's a difference, there's an inequity now in Minnesota where if you aren't a part of an alternative facilities program, the largest 25 school districts get this, but if you aren't a part of that program, then you spend $300 less per student on school facilities. That's not fair. We're going to correct it, and we have nearly $50 million to do that, and that will help all districts in the end.
The governor is proposing fully funding pre-K at approximately $343 million for the biennium. At one point, the Senate was also anticipating fully funding pre-K. Is this something that you think, will your dollar amount rise as well? Do you predict that?
I commend the governor for the vision on universal pre-K 4, and he would fully fund it. And Senator Hoffman had a bill, I believe it was Senate File 6, that would have reflected that. It provided vision and inspiration, a direction to go, but you need to have the resources to do that. We're still very convinced that Ready for K is the objective. In fact, it's a matter of state policy. So we have modified that program by coming up with the use of school readiness dollars. It would be an optional program. It wouldn't be mandated. It would be funded for 4-year-olds in a district that wanted to provide it, and they would have the program for approximately 500 hours a year. It would be free for at least a few hours a day, depending on what the district worked out. So it's not the full program that the governor had, but it makes steps toward getting to that direction. So that's why we put not only $70 million into the Ready for K for 4-year-olds, but we provide additional money for scholarships, $5 million, and some other targeted programs as well. It's a substantial increase in funds, but it's important because you are much more likely to graduate, to be college and career ready, if you are fully prepared for kindergarten. Best return we can get on our investment.
Senator, you mentioned earlier some of the differences between your bill and the House. You've been through this a time or two. How do you reconcile some of these differences, particularly the early childhood? At this point, the House doesn't have any money appropriated for universal pre-K. It's 0.6% increase on the base formula. How do you move through this process, and can we expect a finance package for education?
Well, we'll get a package put together. The House has a different allocation, a different priority as to what they're doing, but in the end, we all represent Minnesotans, and we'll come together. It'll be some modification of the proposal that we have. The governor will certainly weigh in, but when it's all over, I expect you're going to see additional early education opportunities. They will have some other high priorities that we'll fully discuss as well. But ultimately, in the process, it comes together, and I remain optimistic that we'll do that. A number of the proposals that we have in our E12 policy bill and in our E12 finance bill has bipartisan support, and in the end we will reach that agreement.
Have you had any conversations with House Chair Jennifer Loon?
I've had a couple of conversations. Haven't had a sit down to go through a lot of the policies yet, but it's been very amicable thus far.